Did you know where you were driving at that time?
No, sir.
Okay. And at some point while driving, were you asked to return to Carrollwood?
I received a phone call. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall from whom?
No, sir.
Okay. And did you return to Carrollwood at that time?
Yes, sir.
And were the police at the location?
When I got there, they were there. Yes, sir.
And do you recall whether or not if you spoke briefly to the police at that time when you arrived back at Carrollwood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You did speak to the police?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And how would you characterize that interview with the police?
They were just gathering information, asking my name, what I did, and how the day went.
Okay. As far as what took place at what time or in what order?
Yes, sir. They asked for a timeline.
Okay. How long did this conversation with the police last?
Wasn't long at all.
Minute?
10 minutes,
okay.
Maybe.
Later, in August of 2009, did you sit down and have a detailed interview with the detectives?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you tell them at that time everything you knew about what had transpired?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Including these comments about Dr. Murray wanting to get back to the home to get this cream that Michael wouldn't want the world to know about?
Yes, sir.
Had you told the police about that cream comment on June 25th during this 5 to 10 minute interview?
No, sir, I didn't.
Objection. That assumes facts, not evidence. You didn't say 5 to 10 minutes.
I believe you did, Your Honor.
Overruled. Your answer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, was there a practice or something you personally observed at the home where you would see Conrad Murray in possession of oxygen tanks?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what you saw in that regard?
It was normal for oxygen tanks to be there, and if they were there, we would bring them to the bottom of the stairs, and the chef or the children would bring them up. And sometimes the children would bring them down, and security would put them back in the trailer. But it was normal to see the oxygen tanks the last few months.
Okay. When you say normal during the last few months, that would be the period of time that you knew Conrad Murray was coming on an almost nightly basis?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to show you a couple photographs. I'm going to have a picture of the what appears to be the interior of the security trailer. May that be marked People 16 for identification?
Yes.
As well as a close-up of a sign depicted on People 16. If the close-up could be marked People 17 for identification?
Yes.
These have been shown to defense counsel. Mr. Williams, first showing you People 16. Would you recognize the generally what's shown in People 16?
Yes, sir.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Please.
What is shown in People 16, Mr. Williams?
I believe that's a security trailer.
Okay.
And oxygen tanks.
Okay. And the oxygen tanks are on the floor here, a number of them to the left of this chair as well as some on the right of the chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And although it's too small to see in People 16, do you see the sign back wall?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you familiar with that sign?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Showing you People 17. Is that the sign that you just referenced?
Yes, sir.
And it states, please remember to take the oxygen tanks every Friday as soon as place opens?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, was that any process that you were personally involved in?
No, sir.
Okay. So your knowledge of the oxygen tanks would be seeing either Conrad Murray or others either bringing them down the stairs or taking them up the stairs?
Correct. Dr. Murray...
Correct is the answer. That remains. Everything thereafter is stricken. Disregard. Thank you.
What was your knowledge of Dr. Murray's involvement with these oxygen tanks?
He would ask them to be picked up, and I would assign a security guard to drive and pick them up.
You mean location?
from another location,
Okay.
not from the home.
Okay.
And they would bring them to the home. So I just assigned a guard to do that, and I didn't really deal with it.
Okay. Now, do you recall a phone call going back to June 25th, 2009? Do you recall, after speaking to Alberto Alvarez, and after this Alberto Alvarez entering the home and going inside, do you recall at some point getting a call from Fahim Muhammad asking if he can go into the house?
I don't remember that.
Okay. Looking at People's 15, and the phone call reflected at 12:23 p.m. from Fahim Muhammad to you, lasting 11 seconds. You don't recall that phone call?
No, sir.
Okay. You have seen it reflected in your phone records?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further of this witness.
Mr. Walgren, thank you. Mr. Chernoff, cross-examination, please.
Mr. Williams, the very first time you told the police about Dr. Murray wanting to get some cream was on August 31st, 2009, correct?
Yes, sir.
This was over 2 months after Michael Jackson had died.
Yes, sir.
You made this statement in your lawyer's office. You made this statement in your lawyer's office.
All right. The objection's sustained. The answers, if there is one, is stricken. I don't believe there was an answer. Thank you.
Is your lawyer here today?
Objection relevant.
Sustained.
Did you, the time that you spoke to the police on June 25th, 2009, they gave you a phone number of the police officer that spoke to you gave you his phone number. Is that right?
I don't remember that, sir.
Well, do you recall 2 days after the death of Michael Jackson, another police officer calling to speak to you?
No, sir, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that. You testified that the statement by Dr. Murray was it struck you as so odd. You literally locked down the house, right?
Yes, sir.
It was so important to you that you literally concocted a lie with Fahim Muhammad about what to tell Dr. Murray.
I have to correct that. I didn't concoct a lie with Fahim. I told Fahim what I was going to say, and he just do whatever you have to do.
Together, you came up with
No, he
to tell
had no
Dr.
part in
Murray.
making in that.
Did
He agreed that he wouldn't give Dr. Murray the keys, and he said, whatever you tell Dr. Murray, I just won't give him the keys.
Isn't this a conversation that the two of you had about what to tell Dr. Murray?
About what I was going to tell Dr. Murray.
Okay.
I don't believe Fahim spoke
All
with
right.
Dr. Murray.
So it was certainly important enough for you and Fahim to discuss what you were going to tell Dr. Murray.
I felt it was important to let them know that Dr. Murray asked for a ride and to not give him a ride, but what I was going to tell Dr. Murray, so they already knew.
Okay. And so you had that conversation with Fahim Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
And you also told Dr. Murray something about the keys. Is that right?
Could you?
Yeah. Did you tell Dr. Murray that the keys were taken by the police?
That was what I told him, yes, sir.
So this was something that you found to be strange.
But if you look at the conditions surrounding the situation, with Michael Jackson just dying, and the chaos, and the phone calls I'm getting, that was the last thing that I would think about, basically. I wouldn't think of someone coming asking to go back to the house. And I didn't know the law, but from what I did know, I didn't think no one was allowed back in the house after something like that happened.
Makes sense. So the period of time that you're at the hospital, how many police officers were there?
A lot.
More than 5?
That's a good number to say.
How many hours did you stay at the hospital?
I stayed a few hours.
Well, can you be more specific for us?
I don't remember, sir.
Time is hard to estimate in those kind of situations, right?
Yes, sir.
After you left the hospital, you went back to Carrollwood, right?
Yes, sir.
officers were there.
It was a lot of police officers.
And you neither told the police officers at the hospital about Dr. Murray's request,
No, sir.
and you did not tell the police officers at Carrollwood about Dr. Murray's request.
No, sir.
The first time you told any police officer was over 2 months later.
Yes, sir.
Now, your testimony was that you, I believe what you said was you had a short conversation with the police officers at Carrollwood.
Yes, sir. If that's the word I use, I know it was short.
Well, what word would you like to use? Was it...
It wasn't detailed.
Okay. Do you recall telling police officers at the scene that it took you 45 minutes to travel to the residence?
I don't remember saying that, but if it's on the statement, then I must have said
Does that sound like a detail?
Excuse me, sir?
Does that sound like a detail to you?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember telling police officers you 10 to 20 minutes, you left the residence 10 to 20 minutes after you arrived? Do you remember telling the police officers that?
I don't remember telling them that.
Would you consider that a detail?
Yes, sir.
You talked about who was in the vehicle when you drove Mr. Jackson to the Staples Center, right? You told
Yes,
the
sir.
police that?
Yes, sir.
That it was you. It was Fahim Muhammad and Michael Jackson in the primary vehicle. You remember telling the police officers that?
Well, I don't remember my conversation, but what I do know, if I may say, they asked for a timeline of that day. What time we left, what time
Would you
we got
consider...
in.
Would you...
Objection, the witness
Well,
answered the question.
all right, then it's non-responsive.
At this point, it remains, you can finish your answer. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, sir. They asked for a timeline, and I gave them a timeline.
Whether it a detail, the number of people that were in the car when you took Mr. Jackson to the Staples Center.
Yes, sir.
The detail you left out when you talked to police officers was the conversation with Dr. Murray.
Yes, sir.
Now, during the period of time, June 25th to August 31st, when you made this statement to the police officers, you were certainly aware of the news reports on the case, correct?
Mhm. Yes, sir.
You were aware that there was lots of information coming out about Michael Jackson, about Dr. Murray.
Yes, sir.
You read these stories.
I seen the news.
Yeah, Mr. Jackson meant something to you, didn't he?
Yes, sir, you did.
Would it be fair to say that you had an affection, a love for Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
And you certainly would want information about how he had died, right?
Yes, sir.
And you had seen news stories talking about Dr. Murray.
Yes, sir.
One of the questions that Mr. Walgren asked you was when Dr. Murray came to talk to you.
Yes, sir.
I assume that Dr. Murray